So we're on chapter 9. We're talking about fire protection systems. All right, so these are your sprinklers, all right, inside your buildings, your automatic sprinkler systems, 903, and they break it down by assembly. Now, each one of these assemblies is going to have a different requirement. So, once again, that's where you use your use and occupancy classification. Some interesting things, they have repair garages, have special requirements, bulk storage of tires, you know, just some strange kind of details. Rubbish and linen chutes, 903.2.11.2, and your requirements there in case you get them. Now it is NFPA 101 is the standard, okay, for the fire protection code. So if they're asking you about your sprinklers and what have you, it's going to be NFPA 101. Now also we have NFPA 13 sprinkler systems with if they're automatic sprinkler systems, it's NFPA 13. We're going to see 13D as well, so be aware of that. Bathrooms in group R, so we're talking about residential, okay. Sprinklers shall not be required in bathrooms that do not exceed 55 square feet. Okay, sounds like a plan. And then once again, here's where we have 903.3.1.3, your NFPA 13D sprinkler systems. And that's automatic sprinkler systems installed in 1 and 2 family dwellings. So they're all just a little bit different there. So just make sure that you choose the right one. Now, standpipes. Okay, so these are the plumbing systems that serve these sprinkler systems. Okay, so these are your standpipes outside the building generally, and they're governed by NFPA 14. And you have something called a Class 3. There's a Class 1, a Class 2, and a Class 3, and we don't need to go into what those are, but they do talk about a Class 3 have to be installed throughout buildings where the floor level of the highest story is more than 30 feet. And Class 3 basically means the fire department can hook up, and they'll have either an 1.5 inch or a 1 inch connection for what they call trained personnel. They don't necessarily have to work for the fire department. They could be, you know. And then you have a section on portable fire extinguishers. Now, generally, when we do portable fire extinguishers, we're going to be talking about OSHA, but there is a possibility that you know, you could get a question out of here according to Florida Building Code. All right, so code, Florida Building Code is required for just buildings in general, and it's OSHA is when it's in a workplace. Okay, still talking about fire protection. Residential aircraft hangars have to have not fewer than 1 single station smoke alarm. Just some very, you know, lots of detailed requirements in here. Okay, so this is all about your sprinkler system. So you get a question about sprinkler systems, you know where to go. Okay, we're going to jump over to one of the most important chapters, which is chapter 10, means of egress. Okay, you got to be able to get out of a building. People have to be able to get out, know how to get out. It all has to be relatively uniform. Okay, so there's lots of rules. Okay, ceiling height. Okay, a means of egress has to be 7 foot 6 inches. Now, there's some exceptions to that rule, and we'll talk about those as we go through. But in general, means of egress, the ceiling height has to be 7 feet 6 inches. And it talks about protruding objects in the head, you know, and what have you. Protruding objects are permitted to extend below the minimum ceiling height required, where a minimum headroom of 80 inches is provided. So what's 80 inches? 80 inches is 6 times 12 is 72, so that's like 6 foot 8. Okay, so there can be things. Some post-mounted objects, a freestanding object mounted on a post or pylon shall not overhang that post more than 4 inches. Okay, so you've got all these requirements. You don't want to limit people getting out of a building. Horizontal projections, objects with leading edges more than 27 inches and not more than 80 inches above the floor shall not project more than 4 inches into the path. Okay, elevation change, where changes in elevation of less than 12 inches exist in a means of egress, sloped surfaces shall be used. Where the slope is greater than 1 in 20, 5% ramps have to be used. Okay, so keep that in mind. And then the ramps have to comply to certain standards. Now we're going to go to occupant load 1004. This is table 1004.5. This is your maximum floor area allowances per occupant. Okay, so you've got your, your use of the room, okay, and then you have how many people can be in that particular room right there. So make sure you can find it. Occupant load, they call it. Okay, 1005 means of egress. Okay, so how big do these means of egress have to be? Well, we talked about the height. Now we're going to talk about the width. And it talks about here the capacity. Now, this is stairways. The capacity in inches means of egress stairway shall be calculated by multiplying the occupant load, which we just talked about, by 0.3 inches per occupant. So, you might, if you got a bunch of people going to be in there, you've got to have a wide stairway. If everybody's trying to get out at one time, you don't want to create a bottleneck there. Okay. Jump over to 1005.5. Distribution of minimum width and required capacity. Where more than one exit or access to more than one exit is required, the means of egress shall be configured such that the loss of any one access, if anyone exit or access shall not reduce the available capacity or width to less than 50% of the required capacity or width. Okay. Doors in this means of egress, when doors fully open, shall not reduce the required width by more than 7 inches. Okay, so when the door is fully open, it can't reduce the width of that means of egress by 7 inches. You got other projections, so you got a handrail. Okay, handrail can't project into the required width more than 1.5 inches on each side. So it's a total of 3 inches. Okay, so keep that in mind. All right. There's a 1006.2.2.2 refrigeration machinery rooms. Make sure you can find that and what the exit is there. And then spaces with 1006.2.1. If there's only one exit, okay, or exit access doorway, there's going to be some requirements, and it's going to depend on the occupancy, the load, and whether or not there's a sprinkler system. So make sure that you can find that table. Also 1006.3.2, similar stuff. Minimum number of exits or access to exits per story. You'll need to know the occupant load and possibly the number of stories to figure that out. Okay, per story. Means of illumination. Okay, we're going to have to light these means of egress as well sometimes, so make sure that you can find that means of egress illumination. And there are some exceptions there. The U and the A, okay, and the residential. Okay, so this illumination, may not refer to every single area. Okay, so you have all these different areas and the illumination requirements. Okay, so section 1010, doors, gates, and turnstiles. Okay, so we're still talking about means of egress. Size of your doors. The required 1010.1.1. The required capacity of each door opening shall be sufficient for the occupant load and shall provide a minimum clear opening width of 32 inches. The clear opening width of the doorways with swinging doors shall be measured between the face of the door and the stop with the door open 90 degrees. Okay. And how about the direction of the swing? Okay. Pivot or side hinge swinging doors shall swing in the direction of egress travel, where serving a room or area containing an occupant load of 50 persons or group H. Okay, high hazard. All right, so we're looking at manual speed, maximum door speed for your manual revolving door. All right, so make sure if you got a revolving door, there's a maximum speed there. All right, make sure you can find it. Very good. Also, there's another table, 1010.1.4. These are your automatic, power-operated revolving doors and the maximum door speed. Okay, you can kind of get an idea. We're trying to get people out of a building. We're going to have it safe. And therefore, we're talking about stairways as well. 1011, width and capacity. Okay, it does say the minimum width shall not be less than 44 inches. Okay, you don't see the number 44, but that's the width of a stairway. okay, in a commercial building. Remember, this is Florida Building Code building, and it's going to tell us about these exceptions. Wherever it says R, remember, R is residential, okay, so you can, there are some exceptions to this rule. Stairways serving an occupant load of less than 50 shall have a width of not less than 36. So there are some exceptions to this rule. All right. Headroom is 80 inches. That's 1011.3. The walk line across winder treads, okay, shall be concentric in the direction of travel through the turn and located 12 inches from the side where the winders are narrower. So you're talking about winder treads here that are talking about. Stair treads and risers. Riser height and tread depth. Very important that these are all uniform. Okay. Stair risers shall be 7 inches max, 4 inches minimum. The riser height shall be measured vertically between the nosings of adjacent treads. Rectangular tread depth shall be 11 inches minimum, measured horizontally between the vertical planes of the foremost projection of the adjacent treads and at a right angle, okay, to the tread's nosing. And so it gives you some good information there for the, if you've got winders. All right, so make sure you can find that. Nosings, okay, nosings on our stairs shall have a curvature or bevel not less than a 1/16 inch, but not more than 9/16 of an inch from the foremost projection of the tread. You're going to have some landings. There shall be a floor or landing at the top and the bottom of each stairway, okay, where the stairway has a straight run, the depth not need exceed 48 inches, okay. When fully opened, so door openings onto a landing shall not reduce the landing to less than 1/2 the required width. When fully opened, the door shall not project more than 7 inches into the landing, okay. 1011.7.1 stairway walking surface. The walking surface of treads and landings of a stairway shall not be sloped steeper than 1 vertical and 48 horizontal, 2% in any direction. So this is kind of left to right, okay. You can't, they can't be more than 1 and 48. Vertical rise. A flight of stairs, 1011.8, shall not have a vertical rise greater than 12 feet between floor levels. You're going to have a landing there. 12 feet is the maximum. Handrails. Flights of stairways shall have handrails on each side, okay. And we're going to talk more when we get to section 1014 about handrails. Guards. Now you kind of need to know the difference between a handrail and a guard. A handrail is for stairs. A guard is at a landing, okay, at some type of, an overlook or somewhere like that. It's a handrail basically, but it's not on stairways. It's just on a flat surface. Okay. Ladders, permanent ladders, 1011.16 shall not serve as part of the means of egress. Okay, can't do that, but they do have some where you can't. Permanent ladders shall be permitted for these particular areas. Okay, so ramps. Okay, ramps as a means of egress, 1012. Ramps shall have a minimum running slope not steeper than 1 in 12. Okay, 8%. The slope of other pedestrian ramps shall not be steeper than 1 in 8. Okay. Gosh, so there's a difference between means of egress and just regular, other types of ramps within the structure. Vertical rise. The rise for any ramp run shall be 30 inches. Okay, before you're going to have a landing, right? Width and capacity, 1012.51. The clear width of a ramp between handrails, if provided or otherwise permissible, projection shall be 36 inches. Headroom, the minimum headroom, 80 inches. Okay. Doors can't reduce the clear width to less than 42 inches. All right, if you've got one at a ramp. So there's all kinds of good information about means of egress. Okay, so we said we'd talk more about the handrails. So there are requirements for the handrails. Handrails have to be the height measured above stair tread nosings or finished surface shall uniform not less than 34 and not more than 38 inches. Okay. Handrail height of alternating tread devices, ships, ladders measured above nose and shall be. So it's 34 to 38 is what we're talking about. Handrail graspability. Okay, so we've got a couple of different issues here. There is an exception for residential, okay, within dwelling units, R2 occupancy, so anything that's R, of course, is residential, and group U, this is your miscellaneous, okay, handrail shall, or accessory to individual dwelling units in group R2, handrail shall be type 1 in accordance with type 2 in accordance with this section shall provide equivalent graspability. Okay, 1014.3.1. This is handrails with a circular cross section shall have an outside diameter of not less than 1.25 inches and not greater than 2 inches. All right, so that's your type 1. Now you can have a type 2 because you get a little fancy there with your, with your style, and then it has I think they call it like a California handrail. Perimeter greater than 6.5 inches shall provide a graspable finger recess area on both sides of the profile. The finger recess shall begin with a distance of 3/4 inch measured vertically from the tallest portion of the profile. So give you some guidelines there on how you build that handrail. Handrail extensions, handrail shall return to a wall. That's 1014.6. Okay, clearance. Clear space between a handrail and a wall shall not be less than 1.5 inches. Okay, you got to be able to get your hand back in there. Now this is guards. Remember, we were talking about the difference between handrails and guards. Guards shall comply with the provisions of this section. Operable windows with sills located more than 72 inches shall comply with 1015.8. We'll get to that in a minute. Where required, guards shall be located along open-sided walking surfaces, including mezzanines, equipment platforms, aisles, stairs, ramps, and landings that are located more than 30 inches, measured vertically to the floor or below, or grade below any point within 36 inches, horizontally to the edge of the open side. Okay, they shall be of adequate strength and attachment in accordance with 1607, and we'll get there. We'll get to chapter 16. Glazing talks about where glass is used as a guard. We're going to look at section 2407. That's chapter 24 when we get there. The height, the required guard shall not be less than 42 inches. Okay. So remember, handrails are different than guards as far as their requirement. There's some exceptions. Okay. You can go to 36 inches in an R3. And it talks about an R2 and so forth. Separate means of egress. For occupancies R3 with individual dwelling units, guards on the open sides of stairs shall have a height not less than 34 inches measured vertically from a line connecting the leading edges. So your stairway height not less than 34. Your stairways are slightly different in an R3. There's just a minimum of 34. It doesn't say 34 to 38. Opening limitations. Required guards shall not have openings that allow passage of a 4-inch of a sphere 4 inches in diameter. Okay, so that's the spacing between your balustrades. You can't insert a sphere more than 4 inches. And there's a few exceptions there. Screen porches and decks that are enclosed with insect screening shall be provided with guards where the walking surface is more than 30 inches above grade. All right. And let's see. So exit travel distance. Okay, this is important for you to know. Okay, how far can it be from where anybody can be in a building to the exit? All right, so here's your table, 1017.2. You have your occupancy, and this is if there's not a sprinkler or if there is a sprinkler. Okay, so you have to just pick it all out and pull the number off the chart. Not a big deal. Okay. Aisles and aisle passageways serving as a portion of the exit access shall comply with the requirements. Okay, there is the minimum clear width for an aisle access way not required to be accessible shall be 30 inches. Okay. 30-inch minimum. The 30-inch minimum clear width shall be maintained to provide a path to an adjacent aisle of access. The common path of egress shall not exceed 30 inches. Okay, so 1029, aisles and assembly spaces. So we're going to see more of this as we go through, exactly how wide they have to be. Exit access stairways and ramps. Okay, let's see here. Here is your minimum corridor width. Okay, so at base, this depends on your facility and how wide your hallway has to be. Corridor resistant fire rating, you might want to be aware of that. Lots of stuff about means of egress. Okay, emergency escape and rescue. This is a popular area for questions right here. Your emergency escape and rescue opening shall have a minimum net clear opening of 5.7 square feet. There is an exception to this rule, okay? If it's grade floor, it can be 5 feet. Minimum dimensions. The minimum net clear opening height dimension shall be 24 inches. So the height of that rescue opening has to be a minimum of 24. The net clear opening width has got to be at least 20. Okay, so it's got to meet all those requirements. And then here's the one that's real popular. 1030.3, emergency escape and rescue opening shall have the bottom of the clear opening not greater than 44 inches, measured from the floor. And that's going to do it for chapter 10. There's a lot there, so spend some time with that.